Hey, so I've started this new series on interviewing prominent people in crypto, and today's interview is with Jan the Man, CSO from Xverse. CSO is just a fancy acronym for Chief Sales Officer, but if you know Jan, you will know that he is the most prominent figure or face that represents Xverse Wallet, the best wallet on Bitcoin. So I hope you enjoy it. He shares a lot of alpha in this video and we both share our thoughts. So if you really want to get into it, watch the whole interview. I've edited it for clarity and that's it. Hope you enjoy it. Ciao. Jan, my man, how you doing?
What's up, brother? I'm doing fantastic. What is it? It's Wednesday today. It's Wednesday lunchtime. After this podcast, I'm going to make myself some chicken breast with some rice and broccoli. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah, drinking coffee, drinking some greens right now. Just having a good time, bro.
Nice. So it's been a while since we last chatted. I was wondering what's going on with Xverse right now. What are you guys up to?
Oh my God, man. So much is going on. Always, right? Like so much is going on. Ultimately, the spiel, right? Like you hear me talking about this all the time. We want to become the gateway for people to obviously enter the Bitcoin ecosystem, but also be able to manage all of their Bitcoin assets. And when I say Bitcoin assets, that's a lot to digest because there's so much going on and there's going to be so much more going on in the future. Obviously, we have seen the stuff with Ordinals. We have seen BRC20 tokens, runes. That was the first leg of the hype in Bitcoin season 2. Now, obviously, we are starting to see more and more stuff with the L2s and Bitcoin DeFi, some of the kind of emergence of Bitcoin DeFi, dApps, applications like Liquidium and others. Man, like I honestly think that there's so much going on. And so what we're really trying to do with Xverse is to cater to those users that want to do Bitcoin and they want to do it differently. They don't want to just hold it and never touch it, never do anything with it, but they basically want to turn Bitcoin into something fun, like degening around, or something productive. So they want to take their Bitcoin, earn some yield on it, put it to work, make some money. And in the future, we're going to be seeing so many applications that will allow people to do just that. We're always thinking about how do we build this product? How do we make that experience as simple and as user-friendly as possible? Because, man, Bitcoin is hard. Bitcoin is hard to understand. It's so simple, but for people coming in to play around with it, it can actually be pretty hard to understand. Like, what is this UTXO thing? Like, what is this dust? What is this? Why do I need to care about mempool being not crowded, like sats per vbyte being low? I need to consolidate, split UTXOs. I need to prepare my wallet to sweep. I cannot do 5 transactions at the same time if I don't have enough UTXOs in my wallet. Man, these things are pretty hard to grasp at the beginning. And so we're trying to make sure that we have everything in one place, all the tooling, all the UX, UI, all the abstracting complexities in one place.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm super bullish on Xverse. Yeah, as I missed my opportunity, my chance to invest with you guys early on, I remember.
Bro, I told you, bro. I was begging you and you faded me, bro.
I didn't fade. I just didn't want to KYC.
I know it can be hard sometimes with AngelList and these things. I get it. But maybe there's going to be another opportunity soon, brother. Who knows?
I'll hop in for sure. Yeah, KYC or not, maybe I'll get someone else's name on it. But speaking of L2s on Bitcoin, I know there's quite a bit right now. Alex being one of them, Bitfinity Network, Core Chain. These are like EVM compatible as well. How do you feel about these, and how do you think Opcat fits in with these? Because Opcat is obviously about updating Bitcoin Core, and then we'll probably not need a lot of these L2s. So are they basically like short-term solutions or opportunities where we get to farm these other tokens? Or like Merlin Chain's another one, right? So how do you feel about these?
It's a huge question, right? Like there's so much to consider and so much to look at. I think obviously what I'm going to say is probably not going to cover every single L2 because there is probably 30 or 50 or 150 of them right now. You mentioned a couple, but there's like so many others that maybe you and me, we don't even know about. We haven't even heard of. Like yesterday, somebody told me that there is another L2. There is another wallet that is only specifically focused on Bitcoin staking. And EVM compatible stuff like staking protocols, and I saw that there was so many like Bitcoin staking liquid protocols, like 20 listed, and some of them I never heard of. I think there's so many of these things, so it really depends like how you look at it and what you consider an L2. But basically, to answer your question with OpGad and how I see it, I think that some of the best teams, some of the most technically, I would say, excellent teams, what they're basically doing is like, yes, there is no OpCat right now, so you cannot use it. So you're basically maybe choosing a different path that is like the second best path, which is basically you need to do some sort of multi-sig that can be very simple, that one person controls it or one company controls it, or there can be many different signers, independent signers. So there's like many different constructs how you can do this, but in a nutshell, it's a multi-sig bridge, right? So if you want to say, okay, I have some ordinals and I want to put it on that L2, okay, I'm going to send it to that multi-sig and then I'm going to get a representation of it on that other chain. It can be EVM, it can be anything else, even Fractal right now, which is not an EVM, it's like a UTXO based chain, like fork of Bitcoin Core. And so like, you have these teams that are now using that multi-sig construct because that's the thing they can do today, and they can already start building some sort of applications on the top of that layer. But with OpCat, many of these, as I said, technical teams that are really serious about building on Bitcoin and building the way that even I would say Bitcoiners are going to like it, is that when OpCat is enabled, you're going to be able to do trustless bridging, permissionless bridging. So you're going to be able to improve that bridge element that obviously is actually, to me, the most important element of any L2, right? Like what I want to do as a user, if I put my Bitcoin to some L2, I want to be able to withdraw it anytime. I don't want to be dependent of some guy or girl or gal telling me, okay, you can do it now, you cannot do it, or I'm going to rug it. And so I want to be able to do it on my own time, anytime. And right now that's not possible. So you're dependent that like these guys are not going to do something bad, basically, or most of them, I would say. I don't want to speak for everybody, but like you're dependent on they're not going to rug it. But in the future with OpCat, like this should disappear. Again, is it going to disappear 100%? I'm still not sure. I'm still educating myself. But my understanding of OpCat is that we're going to improve this thing about L2s, which is the permissionless and trustless bridging.
Nice. You mentioned fractals. How do you feel about fractals? Honest thoughts.
Man, honest thoughts. I met Lorenzo and I am educating myself on that ecosystem. They have done some amazing stuff in the past. And I think just like outright fading somebody just because, okay, like maybe the tech is not perfect, this and that, like I don't think that's the right strategy in general. Like I've learned my lessons before when I faded BRC20 tokens at the beginning just because the cabal around me was telling me how stupid idea it is. But we learned pretty quickly that market doesn't care about if it's stupid or if the tech is not perfect. Like market cares about like, okay, can you build some sort of momentum around it? Is it easy to understand? Is it something that people can theoretically easily build around? I think that I approach Fractal and I approach every single other thing that I see in the Bitcoin ecosystem similarly. I care about, is that team credible? Right? Like, is that team has some sort of history of building, meaning that they have good intentions, they actually want to build it for the long haul, and they're not here just to like do some quick stuff, quick pump and dump and just disappear with some money, whatever, or like start another project in 3 months when this one didn't work out the way they planned. So I look at that and I think Lorenzo and the team around Unisat, they have it, right? They have done a lot of stuff in the space. They have been here from basically very beginning, a little bit after us. Like we launched the ordinals support very early on, like last year in February, and then Unisat came after us, and Magic Eden came after us, etc. And so they've been in the space for a long time, so I think that's great. I know Lorenzo, I talk to him on regular basis, and so to me he's like very technically like savvy person. But then the question to me is like, can this actually like gain attention in the builder community? Because that's the most important thing for me. It was always the same when we look at Xverse potentially integrating something, be it like the TAP protocol, BRC20 tokens, be it some other meta protocols. There has been so many of these things. And so we always look at, okay, this is cool. It has some hype, but can it actually be sustainable? Will people think that this is the best thing to build on? And I think for that, we need some time to see. we're observing. I'm talking with the teams that are building on Fractal. I'm educating myself. I'm trying to get a sense of like what the community is all about. And after that, I can tell you, am I bullish or not? In the meantime, I'm still learning. I don't know. Like I've looked at some of the pre-Fractal projects. Honest thoughts, I think many of them are just low effort. It's nothing innovative. It's nothing crazy. Like some of the ordinals projects and whatever, like they're just low efforts, just copycat what we have seen in runes and elsewhere. And I think that's fine because that works. But I saw some of the art, personally not a huge fan. Some people may love it, so I'm not judging it. I'm not saying that it's not going to perform. Maybe it's going to perform and you're going to be able to make a lot of money. But I haven't seen so far something truly groundbreaking. And I'm still speaking with some of the like really technically savvy teams. I'm actually going to have a call tomorrow with one of those people. And maybe I'm going to have a better idea afterwards so I can follow up with you.
I see. Yeah, it's interesting because I'm fading because it reminds me of all the L2 farming on Ethereum, like with Blast. And yeah, so I'm concerned. You can still make money from it, right? But at the same time, it's like, is it another Ponzi? Is it another, yeah.
I understand your thoughts, right? And I think in general, my thoughts, you're right. This kind of like, just like farming and this, like, I think, again, yes, I'm not a full-time degen, so I cannot relate to this 100% because like, I am not first in everything just because like we're building a product and there's like so many moving parts. I travel so much that I cannot catch every single meta in crypto. I try to get myself educated as much as I can. I try to get my hands dirty and be everywhere in Bitcoin at least, or at least like learn and try everything in Bitcoin. That's why I am like learning about Fractal and I'm going to try it out and I'm going to see what it is all about. I'm not going to like fade it that like, oh, I'm not even going to look at it. I think that's a mistake. But again, am I going to go like 100% all in with everything? Probably not, just because there's so much going on and I don't have time. I am still very bullish. I actually look at these things as an opportunity to acquire more ordinals and runes because now the market is like so fucking low and like not hype. The liquidity is not there. And some of these like people that are like real degens and real traders, they're chasing these new opportunities. So they will maybe sell some of their runes and sell some of their ordinals to just get liquid. And so I'm hoping that maybe some of the high conviction plays are going to go down a little bit and I can acquire some of the things that I believe long term. Because, and this is like, maybe this is really good point, bro. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this. This has nothing to do with Fractal specifically. This has something to do with just like L2s and like assets on L2s in general. I personally, as a collector and as a person that is a long-term holder, I'm not a trader. I don't trade ordinals every day in and out. Like I don't know how to do that. I'm not very good at it. So I usually try to hold for extensive period of time. Like before we jumped on this podcast, like I'm holding all of my OMBs, right? Like and stuff like that. So basically I try to hold as much as I can. And like obviously maybe there is going to be a time to sell at some point, but like I try to hold for a long time. And when I look at these L2s and when somebody will pitch me an idea like, hey, do an inscription on Fractal. To me, that value proposition is basically zero. Like I want to have shit on Bitcoin. Like I want to have the inscription. I want to have that ordinal. I want to have that fungible token that is associated with Bitcoin, with the real thing, with the daddy. I don't want to have something inscribed on Fractal because to me, that doesn't have value long term. Like that's not a collector item to me. I understand the value proposition where you could bridge the L1 asset to an L2 to trade it better, to do some DeFi stuff with it. But like to do a BRC20 token mint or inscription on an L2, like to me, that doesn't make sense as a collector. But that's just me, bro. I would love to hear your thoughts.
So I'm actually working with a team on an art project right now, on an ordinals project.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I will announce it shortly, but like
let's go.
They asked me, should we like inscribe on fractals? And I was like, no way.
No way. No way.
Why?
Again, that has nothing to do with Fractal itself. Like, I just want to be clear. I'm not like fudding Fractal or anything. I'm just like, the fees on Bitcoin are so fucking low right now that you can inscribe for very cheap prices comparatively to like what was happening when like the sats per VByte is like 20, 30, 40, 100 on average, right? Like right now it's like 2 to 3, maybe 5 sats per VByte in the mempool. And so if you're doing a Bitcoin project, art project, especially art project, right? Like it's not just some degen bullshit. It's like an art project that you want to live on Bitcoin forever. You have to inscribe on L1. Like there's
Yeah.
just no way around it. And to me, that's how I look at it as a collector of many projects. Like, yeah, I am happy with L2s to provide more programmability, more creative ways to do stuff with these art things, with these PFPs, with the fungible tokens, etc. But I want to hold L1 asset if I'm supposed to collect it.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters to me.
Yeah, exactly. It's on the daddy chain and it's in your wallet.
Yeah.
It's inscribed on Bitcoin. Why would you move it anywhere else? Like, I really don't see the reason, right?
100%. Moving it somewhere to do something else with it, I can understand that. But to start your Bitcoin journey on an L2 when you can easily do L1, especially today when the fees are so low, again, maybe in 5 years from now, if we get to the point when Bitcoin mempool is so fucking crowded and it's like 100 times, like, I don't know, like 300 sats or 500 sats or 1,000 sats per VByte on average, because everybody competes for the space, then of course probably doesn't make sense to inscribe PFPs on L1 at that point, because that's probably going to be too crazy to do a 10K collection that would cost you maybe, I don't know, like maybe $1 million. I don't know exactly how much it would cost you. Depends on like how big the file is going to end up being, but that could cost you a lot of fucking money. So you're only going to do it if you really care, or if you just want to degen, probably you're going to go to L2. But man, like right now, no question, if you want to do a Bitcoin project, L1 it is, bro. Like take advantage of the opportunity that the fees are so low.
Yeah, plus Bitcoin has been tested and proven over time. All these newer L2s, we don't know how long they're going to survive for. Like, I'm not fighting Fractals either, but if Fractals goes away tomorrow, what are you going to do with your project?
Yeah, and it's the same thing with all the other L2s, right? Like, as you said, like we even saw it we actually saw it in the L1 space when you look at NFTs, right? When you look at like some of these chains that were hyped for art, like Tezos, etc. Do people really still care about Tezos right now? Looking at the chart, looking at the price of the token, it tells me no, people don't really care. I'm not sure if the community of artists is there, but I would claim the same thing about Avalanche, right? I remember the times that there was a lot of artists minting stuff on Avalanche, but nobody talks about it today. Like everybody talks about Solana, then Bitcoin, and maybe a couple other new chains, whatever. But for NFTs, like what other chain is there that is really, obviously Ethereum. I'm not even mentioning Ethereum because that's established with Punks and with this. I think that beyond that, like what else is there? Like what other chain that was built specifically for that use case actually survived and maintained the level of attention that it used to have? That's just to my point that exactly as you're saying with the L2s, like, yeah, some of them may go away and many of them are likely gonna go away. And so you don't even know if you mint something on the L2, if it's actually gonna survive. Maybe they will get you a chance to bridge it, but like maybe not even that. There are certain things that like you definitely have to consider as an artist specifically, because as an artist, whenever I talk to artists, number one thing that artists care about is, will my work survive and survive me, right? As an artist, because many of the artists become popular like after many years, right? Like not necessarily only after they die, like with many of the artists from the past, but like you need to like be around for a very long time, right? Like to actually like gain attention, build community, like show people who you really are. And so with that, like what is the longevity of the chain that you're choosing? So many people, that's why, choose Ethereum, they choose Solana, they choose Bitcoin, because they believe that these chains are here to stay.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. That kind of makes me think punks need to bridge to Bitcoin. But
that's not going to happen, bro. I don't think it's going to happen, especially not in the short term, because obviously a lot of the punk holders and a lot of the Ethereum maxis, NFT maxis or NFT maxis are actually Ethereum maxis, especially from the generative art era and stuff like that. And I'm not even saying that like that's necessarily a greatest idea for punks. Like I think there is a provenance, the fact that they kicked off the movement of the generative art and they kicked it off because of Ethereum. And so I don't even think that's necessarily a good idea to just say like, okay, we're going to bridge. But who knows? Never say never. Maybe at some point it's going to happen if Ethereum is going to become a Bitcoin L2 at some some point. We'll see. Maybe that's going to happen.
I think it won't, just for the fact that it's owned by Yuga Labs, and I have very strong feelings about Yuga Labs. Yeah, it's a personal thing partially because they sent me the cease and desists because we burned a punk and we fractionalized it and tried. Yeah,
they sent you a cease and desist?
Two
cease and desist?
Two cease and desists. And
wow.
Their lawyer, the Yuga lawyer, reached out to me in DMs as well. And I was just like, dude, like, fuck you.
That's interesting. Okay.
That's very
but
not
I
punk.
But I thought that when you own the punk, when you buy it, you own the IP, no?
That's what I thought. But when we got the cease and desist, to clarify, I got it after I listed it on Magic Eden. And then they delisted it.
I understand. Okay.
Yes.
I get that. Okay. Maybe that's the reason, because they listed it. Yeah. And they were using like the Punk's IP, right? Like actually the brand of Punk. So like, I don't know how this works, but I could understand that's a problem for these marketplaces. But for you as a holder, as an individual holder, you buy the fucking Punk, you can do whatever the fuck you want with it.
Exactly. You know? So yeah, but it should also be my right to take all the pieces and sell them individually, because I see it as, I don't know why, but I also see it as mutually aligned incentives, because it actually helps spread the word as well.
Depends how you name the asset though. If you name it differently, if you're not using the CryptoPunks name, then probably it's okay. But if you're like using the CryptoPunks name, I think that could be a problem, right? Because you're basically like making a business out of somebody else's brand, right? Like, and that's probably a problem because you don't even own the punk anymore because you burned it, right? So you don't have the ownership of that asset anymore. You're basically just leveraging that brand. I could understand why that's a problem. So I would not be like necessarily mad at them because of that. But it's pretty crazy thing to do that you would fucking buy a punk and you burn it.
Yeah, but I just feel like Yuga Labs is the Disney of crypto right now. So I think it's ironic that they're the ones who own the CryptoPunks IP. It's
We'll see how it plays out. We'll see how it plays out. Man, I'm gonna be very frank with you. Like, I'm a Bitcoin ordinals maxi. I'm not a Bitcoin maxi. I love Bitcoin, but I also love other things too. But basically, I would love to own a punk. Like, I know that like maybe we like to meme stuff in ordinals and stuff like that. But like, if I'm just like between you and me, and like if I look at the collector aspect of it, like I'd love to own a punk. I could theoretically buy one right now, but I don't want to sell my ordinals to buy a punk.
Same.
So like I think there is a better opportunity in holding ordinals in terms of like how much upside you can have than like buying a punk. But for the sake of diversification and for the sake of just like owning piece of the history, I think owning a punk is actually a pretty cool thing to do.
Yeah, I would love to own. I thought about it. I'm not going to lie. But I also thought about, just on principle, do I want to own any Ethereum assets? And also, like if I had a punk, I think I would be too tempted to burn it again. Yeah. So
you're fucking crazy, dude. I get that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So are you bullish on runes still?
Of course, bro. I'm bullish as fuck. There's no question in my mind. Come on. Like, I get it. The market is not great. The UX UI is not great. I get it. Like, there's a lot of things that we still have to improve. And I think with Xverse, we have done a pretty good job. Obviously, it's still the first phase. So like we launched this like marketplace swap aggregation. And I know the liquidity is still lacking behind a little bit. It's out of our control. Obviously, we cannot like make everything happen overnight, but we're working with many different people and like trying to solve this problem so that like you can have a really good experience when it comes to buying and selling runes and these fungible tokens, even on the go on mobile, which by the way should be launching pretty soon. I'm hoping. I'm knocking on wood. We want to make that experience better. That's something that we're working on. I think that's very important for the rune success. What is also going to be very important is going to be the fact that we're likely going to get OpCat. We're going to get some of these L2s that will actually allow these runes to be bridged somewhere, and then you can trade them very quickly. You can actually have the proper, maybe not Solana like experience. It's not going to be maybe that fast, but if we can get to the point where it can take a couple seconds when it comes to the block confirmation, I think that's going to be amazing. And so if we can get to that point, I think at that time, like once we have that experience, then like, oh my God, like, do you doubt that like people don't want to hold any like fungible tokens that are actually on Bitcoin or that are associated with the Bitcoin ecosystem and with this like renaissance that happened on Bitcoin because of runes and ordinals? We are even here today.
Yeah.
Ultimately, like I'm extremely bullish. I'm hoping that let's ride it to fucking zero, man. Like let's FUD the shit out of runes. I want to buy more. Please, like I want everybody to come and like FUD runes. Like I want Udi to come back and FUD runes. Like I want everybody to FUD runes because I can buy more for cheap. Because ultimately to me, you know, my thesis is that, you know, in the next bull run, we're going to see Bitcoin at, I don't know, 150, 200K, maybe even more. Who knows? But it's going to be a lot. And obviously all the fungible tokens, all the ordinals and everything that is actually going to be cool and built on Bitcoin is going to be real. It's not going to be just some vaporware, but it's actually going to be stuff that is on Bitcoin and is like really associated with this renaissance is going to go up with it. And the fact that the user experience is not great is good because we're the early adopters. We're the pioneers. Like we're the ones that are actually like paving the way for the others to come. And once this ecosystem becomes like 10 times bigger in terms of users and 20 times bigger in terms of users, which obviously is inevitable, it's going to happen, then people will want to own piece of the history. Like people will want to have a Quantum Cat. People are going to want to have a Pizza Ninja. People are going to want to have a Puppet, an OMB. And so I think that like it's a very obvious play. And like, yeah, meme coins are part of the crypto culture. They're never going to go away. Maybe some of them are going to go to zero or most of them are going to go to zero, but some of them are going to prevail. And bro, like I'm as fucking bullish as fuck. Like I know we're going to the moon literally with this shit.
You mentioned bull run or the next bull run. It's only been 4 months since the halving. Are we in a bull run or are like, do you think it's like super early or where do you think we're at?
Man, given the vibes, so I will look at it from this perspective, okay? I will look at it from the perspective as a builder, right? So if you're a builder in the space, you can tell you're in a bull run when it comes to like investors going crazy and like throwing money at everything and just like not even asking any fundamental questions and just like we want to invest and whatever. And when it comes to Bitcoin, we're definitely not there. We have seen like some bits and pieces with the L2s, with ordinals early on, some companies raised and this and that because certain investors saw the future, but it was definitely far away from every single VC want to get involved in this ecosystem. It was only a handful of people that kind of like, okay, we get it. We want to be early. Let's go. And we're definitely not in the stage of like bull run where like these things, you can see it left and right. Like when I remember back the previous bull cycle with NFTs and all of this, like it was just crazy. Like everything is going up, bro. Like no matter what you do, everything is going up. And it's like not just like 1 month period, but it's like sustained period of like 1 year, right? Like everything is going crazy. People are raising crazy amounts of money just because they say, oh, it's an NFT thing. Okay, let's raise $50 million. And so that stuff is not happening yet, especially in Bitcoin. And I think even broader crypto ecosystem, you don't see that. You see like certain things doing well, not as a whole. And so I wouldn't say we're in a bull run or we're in this like crazy period of time where everything just goes up and nobody even asks any questions why. I think that we're seeing the beginnings of it because ultimately Bitcoin price is not like fucking 20K, right? Like we're at 60K or whatever the price is today. So I wouldn't also say that we're in like some really bad period of time. So I think we're seeing the beginnings of it. We're seeing the taste of it, how it could look like, but we're very far from like being the euphoria. And I think that's yet to happen. So that's my perspective.
Oh, thank God. Yeah, I had the similar perspective because I was like, we've only been flirting with previous all-time highs. Yeah. And
we have seen like the local tops, right? Like we have seen like the local euphoria. So we saw with ordinals in March for a month where it was going crazy because of like the pre-runes hype and everything was like going crazy for like 1.5 months. But that's it. And then it corrected. And now it's moving sideways for a while because like I think we bottomed out like maybe 2 weeks ago. Like it was like everybody was bearish. And right now we have went up a little little bit and moving sideways right now. Again, we may go down again if there is some like major macro event, whatever, or if we see like a huge drop in Bitcoin again. But I think we have bottomed out like 2 weeks ago, and now we're okay. Let's wait for a little bit longer. So, man, I don't think we're in a bull run.
Yeah, it's strange. I feel like maybe we've been in a bear for so long that people are actually like coping and wishing we were already in a bull run, especially with the, like you said, the launch of the Runes protocol really helped pump liquidity into Bitcoin.
Yes.
And I feel like we had like an early kind of local euphoria stage, and we're choppy right now, right before the bull, or the bull's about to come. Yeah,
I think so too, man. I think we're going to see a lot more. And obviously, I'm biased because I spend most of my time in this ecosystem. But I like to look at facts as well, right? So, like, this is not just like a wishful thinking. Obviously, like, I want this to become as big as fucking possible because that's good for me. That's good for Xverse. That's good for all of us that are in this ecosystem because we're all going to benefit from it. And some people are going to make shit ton of fucking money because they're still holding their 50 puppets in their wallets. But I think that ultimately I look at facts, and the facts are that I am seeing a lot more builders, a lot more people building shit for Bitcoin, a lot of cross-chain companies suddenly or finally waking up to the idea that they should support ordinals, runes, and Bitcoin in general. Maybe it's not going to become their number one focus because they're already doing pretty well in Solana, Ethereum, elsewhere, but they need to support Bitcoin to some extent because otherwise they're just missing out. And so we're seeing a lot more builders coming in. We're going to see a lot more new companies and new products launch. Like example, Satflow, they announced like 2 weeks ago that they're launching this like new like pro marketplace for Bitcoin, ordinals, and runes. And there's going to be many other examples like that. And there's going to be many of these OG projects and OG builders. They're going to raise their first round. They're going to raise their second, third round. Like that's going to happen sooner or later. Ultimately, that to me is a signal that builder culture, builder vibes are basically higher than ever. Even though the market doesn't reflect it, the ordinals prices and runes prices don't reflect it yet, but builders are here. People are spending a lot of effort and their brain power on how to make this ecosystem better, how to build better experiences. And that ultimately is going to lead to more adoption, because if we have better tools, if we have more liquidity, if we have more things to do with these ordinals and runes and better ways to acquire them, then obviously more people from other ecosystems and potentially even the non-crypto guys are going to come and do it. And we're also seeing a lot of these exchanges listing some of these runes tokens, even though maybe it's not Binance yet, but many of these other exchanges are doing it, which again is a good signal, right? Like that always happens in the other like meme coins ecosystems, where you first have maybe the smaller exchanges listing some of these tokens, and then you will have one listing from Binance or others, and then like everything is going to go through the roof like crazy. I am seeing these facts. I'm seeing these things. I'm observing. So to me, I couldn't be more bullish.
Speaking of Binance, I know Leonidas is trying to get dog listed on Binance. But from experience, I also know that Binance usually takes up something like it's like a huge percentage of the supply, and then they have it vested for like 7 years or something. Is Leonidas actually in talks with Binance to have it listed, or has some deal, or do you know about any of this?
I don't know. Like, you have to ask him. You probably should have him on the pod as well, and you need to ask him. To be frank, like just basically from my conversations with Leo, like obviously he doesn't have a treasury, so he doesn't have like 10% of dog supply that he can use for these listings. So ultimately what needs to happen with dog to get listed on Binance, either it's going to have such a huge momentum behind it that Binance is going to do it regardless, because they know they can make a lot of money on just fees. So they're probably going to invest in it themselves, or community gets together. Maybe the dog community, there's a lot of like dog whales, right? Like I'm sure that they can probably reach out to Binance, or maybe Binance is going to reach out to them and they're going to do some deal together that maybe Binance doesn't have to buy the supply themselves and invest like $1 million up front, but they can collaborate with some of these whales and like maybe do some rev share or whatever. And basically that way they can still make a lot of money while not like investing a lot of money into like buying that stuff. So there's like a couple of these things that can happen and will ultimately happen as the market recovers, and as you can see that the community is really hyped for it. And obviously there is going to be other projects, maybe not dog, but there are other runes projects that have treasury, and they can approach Binance and these guys and basically say, okay, like we're going to pay you for the listing, or we really want to get this listed, so let's make it happen. So there's going to be like a bunch of these approaches. I think there is really no way around it. I think sooner or later it's going to happen, and it just depends on the market conditions and the approach that the community is going to choose, or that Binance or others are going to choose.
That's a good point. I did hear another perspective, which I thought was interesting, from an ordinals marketplace. They basically told me that with BRC20s, it was easier for Binance to support it because the company's run by Chinese people, and Unisat is also Chinese, and Binance has considerable investment in Unisat as well. So it was easier for them to get that done, whereas Runes is a harder sell because there's a lack of connections and stuff.
I don't know. I don't know if these things are rumors or if that's a factual thing. I don't know how Binance operates as a business, but I could imagine that, that could be the case. I think it's not necessarily only about Unisat. I think Binance was not invested in Unisat from the beginning. They invested into Fractal, I believe, in this like last round, but I am not sure if they invested in Unisat pre-BRC20. But what I was observing in the ecosystem in Asia is that like there was a lot of whales, like BRC20 whales. There's a lot of people in China that have shit ton of ordi and that have shit ton of sats and everything. And those guys likely have very good connections with Binance and these guys, right? And so again, I think that goes back to the point that I made about Dog, is like you can easily have the community instead of the project founder, like, or let's say, I don't want to say that like Leo is a project founder of Dog, like he likes to see himself more just like an initiator, right? Because he doesn't have the treasury and he doesn't really control Dog, even though he's hyping up every day. But like, look at Domo, right? Like Domo is the founder and the godfather of BRC20 tokens. And obviously he minted some already, but it wasn't like that it's dependent on him if Binance is going to list it. Like I'm sure that they talked, but maybe it became easier when you have some whales in China, in Asia that have the connections with Binance, and it's in their best interest to get it listed because it's going to be good for their backs to make it happen, right? Yeah. And so I could imagine pretty easily that something like that happened. Again, is that true? I don't know. Like I'm just speculating, but I'm sure that this is how things work. Come on. Like I don't think you need to be a rocket scientist to figure out how these things are played in this ecosystem, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of rumors, I haven't heard this rumor. I just made this rumor up in my mind, but like, I'm curious, are you guys, is Xverse going to come up with like any airdrops or anything like that? Do you guys want to work on runes or an ordinals project on the side? I'm curious.
Man, I will tell you this. We're a Web3 company, right? So these things are always on the table. When we look at how do we incentivize people to use the product, how do we reward people for using the product from early on, etc. These things are always on the table and forever will be on the table. Now the question becomes how you execute that so that it actually is productive thing for your company and for your team, right? Because I think many of the things that happen in the Web3 space is just basically, okay, let's do an airdrop, let's do a point system, let's do something because like, okay, we just want to ride the hype, we want to create a hype around our project. In my view, it's not necessarily the best way to do it, and it's also not the right way to do it for every project and for every company. It's much easier to do it for an NFT project, for a meme coin, for like project that is 100% dependent on like volume and stuff like that. Like I get that, but for a product that is like much more, I would say, down to the core fundamental piece of technology for Web3, I think what you need to start with is you need to actually have a great product. You need to have a product market fit, which I think we do, but we also need to like get it to the point where we basically cover all of the things that we want to cover in terms of like, okay, what kind of market we're serving, what kind of users we want to serve, how do we onboard more and more users in the future, etc. And you need to have that product in that stage and then think about, okay, like how do we bring more engagement? How do we like take it to the next level? And then you can start brainstorming about all of these incentives. But I also think that it's very important to have a great product. I will always talk about this. Again, in regards to Xverse, we are actually taking small steps in a direction of like rewarding people because we just launched this thing called Exclusive. I don't know if you saw it. It's basically a platform where we have a lot of users. Like I think we're basically the leading Bitcoin wallet right now that focuses on ordinals and runes chains and all the dApps and integrations and L2s even, like we already have stacks and we're looking at supporting many others, etc. I think in that positioning, we're basically number one, there is not really like a direct one-to-one competitor. Obviously, there is a bunch of other wallets that support ordinals and runes as well. In like the Bitcoin ecosystem, I think there is not a direct one-to-one competitor right now. We're basically getting approached by a lot of projects that just want to basically airdrop stuff to our users, be it a token, be it an NFT, whitelist, and whatever. And so what we want to do with Exclusive is like, we want to build this platform where you as a user, as an Xverse user, you can basically opt in. It's not like by default or whatever, but you can opt in. And if you opt in, then the projects that want to reward you because maybe you hold a specific ordinal, you have held an ordinal for a very long time, they will be able to access this information, get it, and basically based on that, distribute some rewards and tokens and whitelists and stuff. And so we're really playing around with this idea that we want to allow people of and users of Xverse to get as much as possible and to obviously get all the benefits, not only from us, but also from the broader ecosystem of builders. And so we launched the first version. It's not 100% done yet. It's just the first thing. Right now, it's like a manual process to onboard projects and work with them. And like they give us like their requirements. Okay, what kind of users should qualify for this airdrop? And so we work with them. But in the future, we would like to make it as open as possible, that like anybody can get access, and then like people can basically reward users without even us knowing, in a sense. That's the stuff that we're building towards. It's early innings because the platform is not 100% ready.
Damn, that's exciting though. That would also simplify a lot of stuff. I know it's not that challenging for a project or a team to be able to find like holders of OMB or quantum cats or whatever and just airdrop like that, but this sounds like it definitely simplifies the work. And
it definitely simplifies, but also you can play around with it, right? Because not only, yes, like finding addresses of holders, it's not necessarily a rocket science. If you know how to read the blockchain, you can figure it out. And there's a bunch of indexers that allow you to do it already. But the way I see Exclusive platform is slightly different because, again, if you're a user of Xverse and you opt into this, you say, okay, I want to register for these whitelists, whatever, then we can also include stuff like, okay, how often do you use your wallet? Do you actually trade on regular basis? Do you hold this ordinal? Do you trade it? Have you held it for a long time, but still using the wallet, which means that you are not a debt user, right? Like you're basically holding Quantum Cat, but at the same time, you're like using the wallet 10 times per day. And so that's a different segment of a user that the project can decide, okay, I only want to give the reward to this guy because he's likely going to use my shit, and not just like somebody who is just like has ordinals in 35 different wallets, but they don't use them. And so we look at it more kind of comprehensively, and we want to build a platform that like really allows projects to pick and choose their holders and their early customers. But again, it's an early stage and we need to do a lot of development there and also get feedback from customers and users. But that's the idea that we're building towards with this.
That's awesome. Really excited to see. I imagine it'll also, get rid of a lot of farming wallets and stuff like that.
Could be, could be. And sometimes farming is good and some people like farmers, but sometimes like you don't want to just give away stuff to farmers. You actually want to find people that are the real holders, that are the real community contributors. I know it's hard. It's really hard in Web3, but we can get closer to that ideal state.
Yeah. So before we close, is there anything else you'd like to add or any alpha you'd like to share? Anything we should keep an eye on?
No, man. First of all, like really appreciate you having me. I think any kind of feedback, any kind of suggestions that people have, I would like to listen to it. I am always in the trenches and I always want to learn from people's experiences and perspectives. So please like let me know if there's anything that we should improve, that we should add, we should consider. Keep an eye, as I said, like the immediate alpha is that we're about to hopefully, again, I'm saying hopefully because it also doesn't fully depend on us. It also depends on the app stores, but hopefully we're soon launching the swaps on mobile. So you're going to be able to swap stuff on mobile on the go, both for the L1 stuff like runes, but also for the L2 stuff. We're starting with stacks and hopefully in the future adding more L2s as they launch their main nets, and there's going to be stuff to swap in between. That's going to be pretty exciting. I think we're launching a bunch of new features like UTXO management tooling that is going to be super cool for Xverse users. You're going to be able to like prepare your wallet for sweeping, split, combine UTXOs, and you're going to be able to extract sats, etc. Like there's so many things that we're doing. We're even speaking with some of the ultra power users of Bitcoin and trying to figure out what other things should we do. Like, should we allow people to freeze UTXOs? Should we allow people to do some additional stuff that can actually be good for security, but also just good for management of your Bitcoin assets?
Nice.
Because again, we want to be the place where you manage all of your Bitcoin assets, period. You should not need to go to like 15 different places to do stuff on Bitcoin, right? And so again, it's going to take us time to get there, but ultimately that's where we're headed. So that's the immediate stuff. But man, there's so many things that I cannot even talk about.
Oh, you should tell me about them when we get off this call, though.
Yeah, I can share some alpha with you. I cannot publicly talk about some stuff yet because it's still, I don't want to say it's under NDA, but many of the things are still being shaped. And so I don't want to just like jump the gun on it. Definitely a lot of exciting stuff is going to happen on Bitcoin. Mark my words, just fasten your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen. Like, it's going to get crazy.
I'm excited. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for your time, brother. And
thank you.
It's always good to hop on a call with you. Yeah, let's do this again.
Same here, brother. Yeah, let's do it again.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.